Okay, I think we can get started. I think there'll be a few more that'll dial in as we progress, but I'm going to go ahead and get started with the presentation. So a couple of housekeeping issues as we get started. First, everybody is on mute. However, I do have the chat window open. So if you do have questions as we move through this presentation, please let me know via the chat session. And I'm going to record this session also just for posterity. And we will send out the recording along with a copy of the slide deck for everybody to have after the event takes place. Thirdly, one of the things I do want to make sure, just setting proper expectations, what we will be discussing today is the Parallel Service Provider Program. More importantly, what I will not be doing is discussing or presenting any technical overview or demonstration of the solution set. So, and the reason I do that is what I find with the technical demos and solutions, they're very catered to a specific use case or a need for a service provider. So it just kind of pulls us askew when we get to this, but if there is interest in seeing a technical demo of the solution set for your particular needs, we're happy to set that up on the back end of this presentation. Those generally take about an hour's time to do so, but we're happy to do that on a one-on-one session. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into this. So my name is Dennis Kolar. I am with Parallels and I represent the Service Provider Partner Program. And what that means is it's a wholesale program that we target towards managed service providers and independent software vendors, or ISVs. So anybody who's helping customers migrate to the cloud or creating managed solution sets, particularly around remote access for their customers, is what this program is intended to support and to help drive your businesses. And speaking of businesses, this is the market direction that we see. So there's obviously a very rapid shift to the cloud, unfortunately with the pandemic upon us. But these numbers do hold true for themselves today, even prior to, even after, I should say, the challenges we all face with the pandemic. But suffice it to say, we're seeing the following items here on the right are really driving this whole concept, right? Anybody working from any device, anywhere. And these days, more often than not, that could be individuals using their own devices, or a hybrid between a corporate device and their own device. But we also focus in and around lowering, the total cost for IT support and solutions being deployed with and through our partners. And we also make sure to cover the security issues with a very staid set of protocols that our solution set is predicated on. So very secure and very staid, I will say. So as we look at this, again, part of the opportunity and what we're seeing, I think it's no surprise to anyone that people are looking at this. And they're also looking at the bottom, right? Lowering costs and mitigating risks. But also today is the ability to work from any place, given what we're all experiencing. So the other component of this is that we also want to, focus in on what's achievable near term and long term, because moving to the quote unquote cloud means a lot of different things to other folks, to everybody. And one person's cloud is not another person's cloud. What we find is that if we focus on these four components, the rest kind of takes care of itself. So We have a very flexible and scalable solution, which is high value. It's very simple and it's secure, and it's also very cost effective. But that said, oftentimes we see, there are inhibitors, right, where you might be pounding a round peg or a square peg into a round hole. And these are some of the inhibitors, right? It's just there's constraints from a financial perspective. There's a multitude of ensuring the integrity of the data and the security of the data. Um, Existing applications might not be compatible with software as a service without being rewritten, as an example, or needing uh, a significant adjustment. Um, the other thing is that, is it eloquent, right? What does the user experience look like? Is it intuitive? Is it easy to use? Easy to navigate the menuing system? But also, when we think about UI, we don't just think about the user experience, we also think about those who have to manage and administer the solution as well. So we think we've got a best of breed solution when it comes to our user interfaces. And I say interfaces meaning those that administer and manage the solution, as well as those that consume the solution, or the end users. So again, as we move through this whole paradigm of what we'll call virtual client computing, right, moving to the cloud, we provide you the capabilities to do so very seamlessly. Whether you're doing just application publishing and delivery, all the way up to needing a full-blown virtual desktop or virtual machine environment to support a multitude of high-end, high processing GPU intensive types of applications and or services. And we do so with a very eloquent, again, that UI, it can be based on a web portal or a web HTML5 browser. It can come through just about any device from iOS, Android tablets, Google Chromebooks, Linux, you name it. We enable this solution set to come through just about any device on any iOS. The data is secure. As I mentioned before, when we talk about protocols, we're using RDP and secure transmission protocols that have been vetted and tested across a multitude of users and compliance issues. All of this bundled together, we believe, and we can show, it reduces the total cost of ownership for you, the partner, as well as for your customers that you're serving. So what we've also found is that it also gives you that ability to enhance, as a service provider, the types of offerings that you're bringing to customers. Again, it's simplifying a lot of IT functions. Again, that UX or that user experience, we believe is superior. It's also very easy to deploy, configure, and maintain. So when you think about total cost of ownership to you as a partner, the amount of time, effort, and energy that you have to invest in training and certifying teams to manage this solution and to do so effectively are very, very low compared to other solutions that are out there. In addition, we put a lot of effort into this product for our service providers. So we've added multi-tenant features as well. So if you're supporting a multitude of customers on a common environment, we have a solution set that scales very nicely across that. And we also work with just about any hyper converged or hyper environment out there today to help you be very agnostic. So we know that hyperconvergence and that hypervisors are fairly staid technologies also. And to be agnostic and to be able to meld into infrastructure that you may already have in place is very important to you. We also have automation tools to help in terms of auto provisioning and scaling. Again, multi-cloud ready, so it doesn't matter to us where this gets deployed, whether it's a premise-based private solution set or a cloud-based solution set in a data center or even public cloud, or one of all three of those across the board. You can mix or match in that into a hybrid solution set, and we're ready to go. So what does this mean to you? Is it's really a win-win business model, because it's for us, it's a pay for as you go licensing, and we'll get into the specifics of the business side of the equation. We want to talk about the value right now in terms of broadening your service portfolio, as well as giving you more services to deliver to customers at scale on any device, which means it's higher value, clearly, and if it's simplified in terms of the deployment and the management of it, it has some very near-term immediate profitability. So here's the value, right? So we talked through who our service providers is, and as I mentioned very early on in the conversation, we focus on the managed service provider, MSP, so anybody who's servicing customers with managed solution sets. We also focus on value-added resellers who are deploying this solution, maybe just solely on premise because customers haven't moved to the cloud or started to move to the cloud. We also focus in on independent software vendors. So one of the things I alluded to was that ability to deploy a current Windows application that's maybe not suited towards a mobile experience, right? A handheld iOS, Android device. Well, we have a solution set that enables you to move those applications to those devices very seamlessly without having to do a lot of rewrite. So that's a huge value to our ISV community that's deploying the need, and like I said, we've seen it skyrocket in the last 3-4 months with the pandemic, the need for people to access, or for their customers, I should say, for the ISV customers to access their solution sets from any device as opposed to just a Windows desktop or a Mac desktop. So all the value on the right, I don't need to read the slide, is what it equates to. So we think we've built a very valuable service provider program, meaning that it gives you the ability to serve customers well, eloquently, while putting some nice profit into your business. So let's talk about that in terms of this, how we construct our partner program. And there's really 3 tenets to this program. 1, it's got to be high value, as I just mentioned. 2, it's got to be very cost effective, and I think we've got a very simplified billing approach as well as licensing approach that leaves you without being exposed or prepaying for licenses, and it truly is a pay-as-you-go model. But then the third leg of the stool is, how do we support you? Right? All well and good if it's very cost effective, but it's not so cost effective if we don't have good support. So as long as you're a part of our program with an active production license, we'll support you 7/24 with an hour minimum response time through whatever means you want to be supported, so, or access us. I'll get into that a little bit more in detail. So we think we built this, right? A high value solution. It's easy to use, it's easy to manage, and it's easy to maintain. So from a RAS perspective, here's how it's tailored to you. Again, you can read all of the components, but you can publish applications as mentioned up here. You can do desktop as a service or true VDI if it's so needed, or a combination of these 3 together. That's the other thing. It's a single license and it covers any aspect of how you want to deploy your architecture. So we just count users, or I should say sessions, period. And and it doesn't matter where that session and that user resides. So if they're sitting on a VDI instance and they move to an application instance on their mobile device, it's counted as one session or one user. Again, I mentioned any devices, the multi-tenancy and the capability. One of the things I did not mention is that we also include a high availability load balancer within this solution. So it is part of the license as well. This is a Linux-based solution set that you just plug into a device, and it provides a very simple and eloquent load balancing capabilities for this solution set. So again, out of the box, you're coming with just about all the tools that you need outside of the infrastructure and the software that you're predicating your solution set on with it. And then on the back end, we do have a very good reporting and billing capabilities. So you can break out customer bills in great detail. We'll allow you to sub-license a key also. So if you want to license a key by user or by customer so that you can quantify the number of users or limit the number of users. So let's say you have 500 users out there, but the customer only wants to pay for 100. You can set your user count to 100. The 101st person would get an error message about how to gain access to the system and who to call. So we give you that also. That's another capability that we do provide, is to give you a lot of flexibility with how you deploy this solution and the management tools, all the way up through white labeling it. So if you want this to be, we love to have you advertise Parallels, but we also know this is about you, the partner, and your relationship with the customer. So you can white label this with your own logo and branding, so that support goes to you as a help desk, or if the customer says, nope, I want that under my, we can enable that as well. So it doesn't matter how you want to label the look and feel of this solution set. We give you that capability out of the box. So again, this is what we've been seeing. Again, we have a lot of on-premise deployments, which partners then start to move into some form of hybrid deployment. Maybe they have a private data center that the customer wants to move, as a DR site, or perhaps they have a public infrastructure because they've moved them to Office 365 and they want to start putting their toe in the water there for high availability or for load balancing across geographies, as we're beginning to experience again in this day and age. But we also moved into the hyper-converged space as well. So if you are currently working with, say, Scale or Nutanix, you could have those environments up and running, and they're pre-built and architected to support Parallels RAS. So again, this speaks to the strength of our TCO communication and position, that we give you a simple single tool that you can deploy across a multitude of different configurations, or all configurations at the same time. It just depends on where your customer is in their migration and their needs, migration to the clouds and their needs of their end users. So again, we deliver that value immediately to you. And again, we've talked through this, but I'll highlight some more of the recent things that we've added. So one is native gestures. So when you think about the user experience of moving from keyboard on a desktop or a laptop computer to say a mobile environment like a tablet. Good example of this would be, say, field technicians who are used to working with maybe a laptop remotely in a van where they can go in and do so. Now they can do so with a tablet and move around mobilely on the customer site. We enable a lot of gestures, working with, again, developing a UI, so that many of their keyboard components that you've used in the past with either a laptop keyboard or a desktop keyboard are enabled on the on the iPad or the UI that you're using on a touchpad. Drag and drop. So we do have drag and drop features, so you can move files from a remote app down to a tablet, as an example, or vice versa. You can move it from the tablet and or the PC desktop up to the servers and the virtualized environment. Multitasking is new. We have an ultra-fast login, which is basically some AI components that we put into the solution set. So if you have people that log in, say at 9 o'clock in the morning, creates a broadcast storm, can also have a lot of degradation of bringing response times to a minimum. We have something that we built that is prescriptive and or it anticipates the needs of your customers so that they're predefined when they come into work, and it mitigates that chokehold. One of the other things too we've been very much focused in on and evolved over the years is printing and scanning. So we do have a universal printing and scanning solution set. So whether it's a barcode printer in a warehouse, whether it's a dot matrix printer at an airline gate, we see that quite a lot for printing manifests. We support them, and we have a solution set that we've built and or customized as the case may need. And then also, I'd be remiss to say if we didn't have a single sign-on, we do have SAML and multi-factor authentication solution sets as well. The other components here are about how secure our solution is, and as I mentioned before, we're using encryption protocols that are fairly staid and tested and tried. So there isn't anything new or exotic here that does not fit or meet with modern compliance standards, whether you're in finance or healthcare or whatever your compliance level is. So we check those boxes there to be very secure, but you also have a lot of control. So you can monitor users, you can control users very simply through the management interface and management tools. But it also, again, we do that, centrally, so that provides a higher level of security as well. And then I'd be remiss too not to mention that we do have, as I mentioned before, multi-factor authentication as well as smart card authentication. So if there's a protocol that you already have in place or your customer already has in place for how they want to authenticate users, I would better bet we have a solution that we've either built for someone or that it's a stayed part of our product. And all this means is this, right? It's agility and business readiness, that you can bring a solution to your customers that's immediate, near term, and it's a one-stop solution for either remote desktop services to application publishing and or full-blown VDI. You can mix and match operating systems and technologies. It's hypervisor agnostic and it's cloud ready, however you define or your customer defines cloud ready. Easy to deploy. Right. As I mentioned, there's auto configuration components, centralized management of the solution set. Didn't talk about it, but we do have REST and PowerShell API integration. So, and we have quite an extensive knowledge-based library of where we've helped and develop those API integrations. Most of our solution sets, particularly for your client, are wizard-based. So you can customize the wizard-based and push it out to clients as needed. And that's very helpful for many of our partners because it takes a lot of the abilities, or that I should say, where things can go wrong with the customer trying to deploy the solution. So we make it simplified. We keep the parameters very narrow so that customers can't go awry with a self-install. And again, We talked about auto provisioning and auto scaling, very high level, but we do provide that. So if you're deployed into um, your own hyper converged stack, or you're working within a cloud infrastructure, you can auto scale up and down. Conversely, if you're deploying this for a customer who has data center capabilities on premise, um, you can also enable that for auto scaling up and down, so they maximize um, their internal infrastructure and investments that they've already made in hardware and software. Again, this all leads to this, right? Reducing the total cost. It's a one license model for us. We think we've covered just about everything, including things like the multi-factor authentication components of it, and things like the ability to have a load balancer built into the solution set. So we think we've built a better mousetrap by lowering complexity, and I'll kid you not, I mean, this technology has been around a few years, from the advent of Citrix and VMware. So we've lived vicariously through our competitors. That's why we have a simple licensing model. That's why when it came to reducing the complexity and raising the intuitiveness of the user interfaces, whether you're using it as a customer or whether you're managing it as an administrator, we've built this from the ground up to be just that, because we know that those can be an Achilles heel for anybody managing and or using some of our competitive products. And then when we bundle all this together, what do we end up doing? We lower your licensing cost and raise the value to your customers as well. So why don't we talk a little bit about the cost effectiveness of the licensing model. So let's put this in a context, the next few slides, about what's in it for you as a business partner. What does this mean for you monetarily? How do you make this work within your business financially? So we start with a single license, and we call it SPLA licensing. So if you're familiar with Microsoft's terminology, SPLA stands for Service Provider Licensing Agreement. It's evolved today into the CSP program, which is the Cloud Service Provider program. So if you hear that, or you see those two acronyms within our documentation, or the things that you're reading about our solution set for service providers, that's the premise. And the reason we started that way was most partners understood how service provider licensing worked within Microsoft. So we borrowed the term. But to really, the talking points here is, if you see, we're going to issue a single license key. And if you see on the right of this slide, we have a multitude of different farms, right? And so what I'm going to walk you through here is a build slide that talks about how we license across a multitude of different deployments under a single license key. So in this instance, we are deployed your license key across the 1, 2, 3, 4 farms, plus one that goes to M. So that's just the quotient of equivalent. But the point is that you can deploy this across a multitude of farms, and or, as I mentioned previously, you could have each one of these farms have their own sub-license key if they were separate customers. So in these particular instances, we've identified it as client, premises, could be Azure, AWS, could be a private data center like Equinix, your own hosting facilities. It doesn't matter, again, to us, and you can use the single licensing capabilities because you can identify each farm uniquely, but we aggregate that license key across the utilization. So here we have a total number of CCUs, and you can see the peaks, right, that were deployed. And so what we're doing is we're At the end of every day, there's a small little piece of text information that's sent out via secured link back to uh, our licensing servers. So at the end of the month, if you're used to SPLA or Microsoft licensing counts, you don't have to do a tally and send it to us. It's done automatically for you through this little mechanism that we've built, which sends out an aggregate utilization, um, and then it's subbed. Clearly, it's a tally effect across all the farms or sub-licenses key and or sub-licenses keys that you have deployed within your solution set. And so what that means is at the end of the month, it's very clear as to how the license was used, either by server farm and or by a sub-license key. So you get a bill for the entire amount that was used, broken out then in detail by how and who used what number of licenses. And then this is just it. And in this instance, we have it going to Tech Data. Tech Data is a distributor for us, but this could be parallels as well if you're doing business directly with us. And we do both. We support channel through distribution as well as direct. Then on the other side, so as part of the program, you do become activated with a solution set we call My Account. This is your portal, if you will, into Parallels for everything from license utilization, as we see here, to also how you open trouble tickets and find support, whether that's through the knowledge base or the need for opening tickets or engaging us through forums. Another view, this is just a more detailed view, as I mentioned before. In this instance, we have the previous instance, we had the Azure, we have RAS, we have different farm names, and you can see they're distinct. These could be customer names. You could have different versions of RAS running just based on need. We see this more often though with existing partners. The partner program's been around for almost 10 years. So we do have partners that are managing customers on infrastructure and releases that are still supported, but they're just not the most current release. All right, so what everybody wants to know is what's it going to cost me? Right? How does this all work? So before I unveil the pricing, let's just kind of iterate what it includes, right? So you get application publishing, or you get VDI or remote desktop services. Again, any one of those three and any combination of those three under this license. One of the things I didn't mention was we can also provide remote PC capabilities. And what that means is if you have somebody, and we do have this in instances where people need access to a remote PC that's dedicated for a function. And more often than not, rather than putting a full VDI instance of it into a data center, you just give them access to that desktop. A couple of use cases for that is somebody has very specific needs to an accounting system. Is one that we find. The other is somebody who might be doing something more on the engineering side, like AutoCAD as an example. So they have specifically built systems and or a single access point to get there. This is a way to enable that single access point to be extended to a user or set of users remotely, one-to-one. Also, all device clients. So we didn't talk about that too much, but whether it's Android, iOS, we also have the HTML5 viewer as well, Linux. I mean, the myriad goes on and on in terms of devices and how you access the solution set, but to suffice it to say, we find it very flexible and scalable for any remote users. Apple Macs, again, Windows clients. It's quite a list. We provide that high availability load balancer, comprehensive supporting, and I should say comprehensive reporting, but we also wrap that around with 7x24 support. And for that, there's no monthly minimum commitment. So you start out, and where we see most partners get started is between 1 and 500 concurrent users a month. And that's billed out at $5 per user, and it goes up from there. So a concurrent user, as we evaluate it, is really defined as a single user instance. So how do we measure that? So at the beginning of the month, we start a meter, and at the end of the month, we stop the meter. And we measure daily utilization. And the day of the month that has the highest utilization of sessions, again, now I said sessions include a person, not devices. So if you have a person that logs into a session on a VDI machine and then moves to um, an application that's published vis-a-vis using their tablet, it all counts as one user session. So we aggregate on the day of the month that has the highest utilization is the quantity that we use to bill against this rate table. Okay. Take a look. So again, and the third leg of this stool really comes down to support, right? How do we support you, the partner, and you in turn support your customer? And it's pretty simple. For us, it's 7x24, as I mentioned. As long as you're part of the program and have an active license, you can access us through Facebook. You can access us through the portal directly. You can email us. You can call us. We even have an 800 number, 7x24. And for service provider partners, it's a 1-hour response time commitment. We do have customized solution sets. So if you need, tier 3 level access immediately, we do have solution sets for that. So, and again, like I said, we've had partners in this program for over 10 years. Most of them know the solution set backwards and forwards. So starting at a tier 1 or tier 2 type of technician for diagnosing problems, really when they're calling, they do have problems. So suffice it to say, we have a support option to support any partner where they are on the continuum of maturity with using our solution set. There are no upfront fees or costs to join, and there's no minimum usage commitments for this solution set. So again, that speaks to TCO. You're not having to prepay for licenses. You're not having to prepay for support or maintenance contracts. But we do have a few requirements. One is that you go through our service provider application. It's on our website. I'll include links to this post this presentation. We look for current membership in SPLA and CSP programs. And we look for that for the following reasons: that you understand how this whole billing concept gets predicated, because there is a Microsoft component in RDP licenses that we work hand in hand with. So there is our licensing costs, and then there are things like user CALs from Microsoft that are part of this solution set. So having an understanding of how that licensing program works so that you can bring the value of that to the customer is important to us, and that's why it is a requirement of the program. We ask that you achieve and maintain 2 Parallels RAS technical certifications. We didn't talk about this, but technical certifications are provided to you at no cost other than the time that you need to invest in attending the course and passing the certification exam. We hold regular testing sessions. I should say we hold regular educational sessions for technical certification. So that's also posted on our website. You can attend live, but we also have materials that are virtual. So if you prefer to do this virtually because of a time constraint doesn't matching up with our live sessions, you can do that as well. What we find is it's about a 4-hour commitment in terms of understanding the technical requirements and passing the certification exam. And the certification is really predicated around best practices of how to build, architect, or I should say architect, build, and deploy an initial RAS solution. Since we've added multi-tenancy and SAML and a few other advanced features, we've also created an advanced certification. So many of our, like I said, many of our current partners who have been with us for a number of years have been asking for that. So we've created a separate advanced certification for them. And those are open to anybody at no cost to you other than the amount of time that you need to invest. And then lastly, because we are very channel focused, we only sell with and through our channel partners. As I said, we can do that with you through distribution, or we can do it through a direct basis. But we do ask that you complete an annual partner profile. And with that profile, we know who you are so we can direct leads to, right? Because we get a ton of leads that come to us a month in, a month out, that we need partners to help us deploy and follow up on those leads. So that is it. I mean, from my perspective of what I wanted to cover today. But here's the benefits, right? So you do get a dedicated channel account manager. You get a scalable solution that you can start with little to no commitment other than the time invested in understanding the technology. We support you. So whether you're just getting started, we will support you from setting up your proof of concept. So where we see a lot of partners get started is, I have a customer who has a need. We want to see if this solution set called RAS will fit that need. And so we start with a small single server proof of concept. And oh, by the way, you can install all the elements of our stack onto a single server. It supports up to about 25 users. So for many partners, there's a low threshold for testing and putting this through its paces before they demo it for a customer. So we are there to hold your hand. So we also have, in partnership with our channel account managers, sales engineers who know the solution sets backwards and forwards and can help you configure a proof of concept and or hold your hand as you're presenting it to customers. And we will do so until you're up and running. At some point in the future, we would then hand you off to the support line. But we want to make sure that you're up and running and very comfortable with the technology and the solution set first. It's a purely pay-as-you-go model, right? So if you don't use it, you don't pay for it. It's that simple. If you use it, you pay for it. Training is on, and we do provide a not for resale key once we get you up and running. That's really important because many partners need that for a sandbox environment, or they want to have their reps demo the solution to customers without having to run up the meter to do so. So we do enable that as well. Core capabilities, I could spend another 20 minutes on this slide alone, but the bottom line is that if you look across these columns and rows, you'll find a very, very feature-rich product that is simple to manage, simple to deploy, and high value to customers and to your business. So last slide for next steps. You can always, we have an alias, which is called psp@parallels.com. If you'd like to get additional information regarding our program as to how to, if you have unique questions or scenarios you want to run past us, it's a great place to start. The alias will get it distributed to the channel account manager for your region. If you want to move forward, you can also follow this link at the bottom here, and that will take you to the the online application. It's a very simple application, probably take you 4 minutes to fill out, and that'll get submitted in and again routed to the channel account manager that manages your particular geography. So with that, I'm going to conclude today's session. I want to thank you all. I don't see questions in the chat room, so that's I must have done a very good job of explaining things. So I will bid you a good day at this point. And again, you will see copies of this slide deck along with a recorded version of this. And there'll also be email links, or I should say these hypertext links within the email that you receive. So if you have further interest in pursuing this as a solution set for your business, we're here to help you. Thank you again for your time and attention, and I hope you have a great day. Take care now.